different video, but I hated how I looked because of my hair, and my eyeliner actually came out really good today. So I thought I'd do another video to do justice to this eyeliner where I don't look super terrible. So I guess let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about 5 things I wish I knew before I got my rabbits. I got my first rabbit, Sachin, when I was 15 years old, and then I got my second rabbit, Butchin, when I was 17. So now that I'm 19 years old, I'm going to be getting my third rabbit. Just kidding, I am not getting any more rabbits. But now that I am 19, I've had rabbits for 4 years, and even though I did so much research when I first got my rabbits, there are definitely some things that I never really came across and I wish I knew. Something that I'm very proud of my young self for is the fact that I did so much research before I got Sachin. I was actually doing in-depth research on proper rabbit care for years before I got him. And in that time, these are 5 things that I surprisingly never came across but really wish that I knew. The first thing I wish I knew before I got rabbits was just to get a bonded pair. 4 years ago, it was very common to have single rabbits, and the mentality was that you could have a rabbit and you can get a second rabbit whenever you were able to and just bond them together. I have since learned that bonding is actually quite difficult, and the chances of 2 completely different rabbits bonding and ending up to be best friends is actually very unlikely. I think more people need to talk about the fact that if you have a single rabbit and you have plans to bond them in the future, you really have to be prepared to have 2 rabbits housed completely separately because the chances of them bonding really aren't that high. Even though I did so much research on the bonding process before I even got my first rabbit, I just think nothing can prepare you to actually go through it. It's so much longer, it's so much more difficult and stressful and emotional than what you see on the internet. It's a weeks-long process of you watching animals that you love so much viciously attack each other and be physically hurt from those attacks. So I think it's very emotionally tolling. I also think the amount of time it takes to go through the bonding process, partly because you have to actively be supervising the entire thing and you're constantly on edge because you know that there could be fights, but also there's just so much extra cleaning because both rabbits are extremely territorial during that time and likely not using their litter boxes. It's so much weeks of preparation to just have all those different setups and supplies, and I think even when you're all done and through the bonding process, there not being the guarantee that they're actually going to last and have a stable bond, I think just makes it so frustrating. Also, even though I've had rabbits for 4 years now, I still feel like I'm inexperienced when it comes to reading and understanding rabbit body language. Especially if you're trying to learn over the internet, it's really easy to not understand a lot of different rabbit behaviors. I think when you become more experienced, it's very obvious to see how your rabbit is feeling, but when you're new to everything, rabbit body language is extremely subtle and extremely nuanced, and it's very easy to mistake a very uncomfortable rabbit to be one who's just flopping and relaxing, or a very aggressive rabbit to be one that's just exploring his surroundings. So yeah, I think the whole bonding process, I've gone through it so many times now, it's just so extremely stressful, and the fact that my rabbits really don't have a great bond is just frustrating, and if I could do it over again, I definitely would have gotten a pair that had already been bonded and that were adults. The second thing I wish I knew before I got rabbits is that they have a smell. Now, I did so much research on this because my parents were very particular about not having any smelly animals in the house, and every single resource I could find said that rabbits didn't have any odor to them, especially if you're keeping their litter box clean. I will say that rabbits don't necessarily smell bad, but they do have a smell. I think some of it is the odor from whatever hay that you're using, but I also just feel like there's a very animal-like smell when you have rabbits, which again is to be expected. If you have an animal, even if you have a person, everyone has unique scents and it's just something you have to get used to. But I think this whole idea that owning rabbits is completely odorless and doesn't have any smell is not necessarily the most accurate. I will say my rabbits as individuals are extremely clean. You can literally sniff right up to their butt and you're not going to smell anything. I think they smell less than any dog or any cat that I've ever met. But I just think once you own them, there's kind of a particular smell that comes around the room that you're housing them in or the pen. And again, it's not necessarily bad. Also, rabbit pee definitely does stink. You aren't going to be smelling it a lot if you have a high quality litter, but if you ever notice that they go outside of their cage, it's definitely going to be a very potent odor. So yeah, rabbits definitely do have a smell. Another thing I wish I knew before I got rabbits is that litter training is kind of deceptive because you're not really training them. I always imagined litter training for rabbits was the same way that you would teach an animal tricks or even the way you would potty train a dog. The fact is, litter training for rabbits is just taking advantage of natural instincts that they already have. Rabbits are prey animals and they have their eyes at the sides of their head. This gives them a nearly 360-degree view, except for the back of their head. Rabbits doing their business is actually a bit of a vulnerable time for them. So what they do to make sure that they're not going to get ambushed from the back is they actually scooch right up against the corner so nothing can sneak up behind them, and then they do their business. As pet owners, we're able to take advantage of this behavior by providing litter boxes. Putting them in corners of rooms is really great to get them started, and your rabbits are naturally going to use the litter boxes because of that. Rabbits also have desires to want to keep their territory clean. Again, they're prey animals. They don't want to expose where they're living and for predators to find them. So they do like to do all their business in one area, and especially if you provide the hay near or in the litter box, that's even better because rabbits poop while eating hay. So all those combinations together make it so you have a nearly perfect litter trained animal. However, again, you're not really doing any training. You're just taking advantage of their own natural instincts. That means some rabbits are going to be nearly perfect with litter training, and other rabbits are going to be pretty subpar. Now, in a situation where you have a rabbit who's not great with litter training, there's really not that much you can do because, again, it's just natural instincts. It's not like the way you're teaching a dog to spin and maybe he doesn't spin every time, so you work harder and you solidify the tricks. Rabbits pee and poop multiple times a day, especially pooping, and it's really impossible for you to do something the way you would with a dog, where maybe they're in the middle of pooping and you rush them outside so they associate that. You can't really do that for rabbits, and if their natural instincts are telling them that they want to mark a different area of the cage and they want to leave a couple poops scattered around, there's really nothing you can do about it. In saying that, because you're really just using their natural instincts, litter training tends to be so easy to actually train. I thought that it was going to be this huge week-long process, but I know both of my rabbits got it literally within a day or two of me having them. Also, if you do have a rabbit with poor litter habits and you want to help them improve, the really only things you can do are you make changes to make it easier for the rabbit. For example, setting up the room differently, making the litter boxes more accessible, having more litter boxes, having bigger litter boxes, and shallower litter boxes. Usually a combination of all those things is really going to help improve their litter habits. The fourth thing I didn't know about rabbits is that they can bite. Now, I know this is a little bit silly because every animal with teeth can bite, but I never really saw anyone else talking about it. Rabbits communicate in a variety of ways, and one of the ways rabbits communicate is with their mouths. Every rabbit is completely different, and some rabbits prefer to scratch to get your attention, and other rabbits will prefer to give you a little slight nip. Every single rabbit is an individual and behaves slightly differently. Some rabbits are very assertive and are very picky about what they want, and other rabbits are very tolerant. Rabbits also decide to communicate differently. For example, some rabbits might nudge you or might chin you or simply might run away when they're bored of you. But other rabbits might give you a little nip. For me, it was just definitely something to get used to because one of my rabbits is a huge biter. He bites if he wants attention. He bites if he's bored of attention. He bites if he wants food. He bites if he doesn't want food. He kind of just bites all the time as one of the ways he communicates. And it just was something that I wasn't expecting. Rabbit bites aren't going to crush bones or anything the same way that a dog bite would. It's just two sets of teeth that are going to dig into your skin, and it's so painful and it's so annoying. I would rather get bit 10 times by my dog than get bit once by my rabbit. The last thing I wish I knew before I got my rabbits is that rabbit care is constantly changing. I know when you're doing research, it can feel so overwhelming and like there's so much information out there, and there really is. We've come such a long way in owning house rabbits. However, at the same time, there's still quite a ways to go, and we're learning new things every single day. I'm constantly surprised at the new things that people are trying and figuring out works for them, or maybe some other things that we used to do in the past that just really aren't very good. When I first got Sechin 4 years ago, 8 square feet was considered to be a really good size for a rabbit pen, and most people would be letting their rabbits for out of cage time for between 2 to 3 hours. Now currently 12 square feet is a lot more acceptable bare minimum, and even that a lot of people push for bigger cages or even rabbit rooms as the bare minimum. It also seems to be like 4 to 6 hours is a lot more common for out of cage time, and free roaming is becoming very popular, which I think is great. It's also a lot more common to have rabbits in pairs or even larger groups like that, and I think we're a lot more educated on rabbit nutrition and the things that we're feeding rabbits. There's a lot of very experienced and passionate members in the community who've figured a lot of things out, But at the same time, there's actually a lot of things that we don't really have that much actually facts on, and it's all just word of mouth. For example, I was doing some research on dog and cat spay and neutering so I could come to my own conclusions, and then I decided I want to do some more research on rabbit spaying and neutering, and there really isn't very many scientific or medical documents out there kind of detailing the process and explaining like pros and cons to different things. Also, rabbit nutrition, there really isn't enough information out there, sadly, and there isn't enough studies conducted to know thoroughly different things that rabbits need. Even just something like analyzing pellet brands and looking at the percentages, it's highly debated exactly what percentages are ideal for rabbits, so I just think that's kind of interesting. Well, those were 5 things I wish I knew before I got my rabbits. Let me know in the comments down below how long you've had your rabbit and what are some things you wish you knew before you got them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!